Hello and good afternoon. This is Amol Dete here. So glad to have all of you and so glad to see all of you here. So this is etcfo.com and my name is Amol Dete and we have a special series feature of compliance brought to you by obviously etcfo.com and our partner called Clear Tax, the makers of Clear Tax. And the session of today's discussion is, are CFOs risk ready? And ladies and gentlemen, let me tell you, I have top speakers going to discuss here with me the future of compliance in a risk format. So our CFOs risk are taking risk today. Our CFOs risk ready today. This is what we are going to explore in a session, which is I'm just going to start with you. And let me introduce all my speakers to you one by one. So my first speaker for this panel discussion is Mr. Arnab Roy, the CFO, Schneider Electric. My next speaker is Mr. MP Vijay Kumar, the CFO of CFI Technologies. Thank you, Mr. Kumar. My next speaker is Mr. R.S. Rajagopal Shastri, the CFO of WAPCO India Limited. Mr. Shastri, glad to have you.
Good afternoon, everyone.
And my last speaker for this panel discussion is Mr. Rohit Razdan, the CBO Clear. Mr. Razdan, glad to have you.
Hi, everybody. Good to be here.
So, gentlemen, so glad to have you here, and we are going to discuss a very, very important topic today, which is risk. I mean, whenever we are talking to any CFOs, the question is, are CFOs risk ready? Considering the changes and the challenges which is happening in the financial ecosystem, not only from the government side, where the compliance has been increasing day by day, but also on the digital side, where company wants to increase and adopt a lot of digital technologies and everything. So the question here is specifically when our CFOs, is ready. And I will start with you, specifically with one question first, and we'll try to take your perspective. The question is same for all of you. And Mr. Roy, I will start with you. My question is, are CFOs risk ready? What is your perspective?
Thank you, Amol. I think it's a relative term because we are in a constantly changing environment, and I think if you see the last few years' evolution, the regulators are really peddling the change in a very accelerated fashion. I would say. I think it started with GST a few years ago, and now we have a whole lot of new laws which is coming. And as we speak, I mean, we have a very significant change which is coming in the form of the Companies Act change, the Schedule 3, as they have called it. So it's a constantly evolving environment. I think we are trying to keep pace with it as much as possible. I think digitization is the only answer, and I'm sure we are going to deliberate upon it as we go forward. But yes, we are trying to keep pace. I think last 1.5 years, thanks to COVID, the digital acceleration has been quite fast. So the readiness is better, but it's still a journey.
Okay, noted your points, and that was a good to begin with, Mr. Roy. Mr. Kumar, I will come to you and take your perspective. What is your answer? Because my question is the same. Are CFOs risk ready?
Yeah. So Amol, I would tend to agree with Arnab. My own experience of interacting with CFOs across different size of organizations, individually they are competent and ready for understanding risk, managing risk. But I think it's more to do with the organization itself being ready for risk management practices. I think that's the challenge which most of the CFOs are facing. Second is a very valid point which Arnab brought is the external regulatory environment changes. I think there is an ecosystem or environment of relatively lower trust, and consequently excess regulation compared to other jurisdictions, and that kind of an environment is actually making life a little difficult. I would say it's challenging, but people find a little choked at times working in that environment. So just to summarize, individually I find them competent enough to handle risk, but it's subject to the respective organizations' ability to commit resources and culture of risk management. I would summarize it that way.
Okay, noted your points, Mr. Kumar, and I think you also summarized it really well. The culture is again a very, very important part. Mr. Sastry, I will take your perspective. our CFO's risk rating? What is your?
Now, my perspective is, well, I more than agree with Mr. Vijay and Mr. Roy. It would be an achievement to us if we are even risk aware, and with the kind of geopolitical systems, the economic systems, and the kind of inflationary trends we are facing, the kind of availability of material which manufacturing industry is facing, and the advent of the digital technologies, and we as people, we have to use them, but we are not completely aware of them. So there is quite a few things happening around us, which while they present themselves as risks and opportunities, for us just to be aware, I think to a large extent we would do well by even being ready for those eventualities as they happen in the form of risks, and we are able to mitigate them. I think if you are saying that are we well prepared, are the CFOs well prepared for any kind of eventuality as it comes? No. We are just trying to equip ourselves with more knowledge and building our organizations with more capabilities that whatever be the change in the ecosystem, we are able to deal with it. I think that's my perspective.
Not to your point. So I think let me get some different perspective here. All of you are a CFO, and obviously your perspective is different than I think the perspective from Rohit. So Rohit, what is that you see? Our CFO's risk rating, because your perspective is an external perspective. How do you see it?
Yeah, I think broadly speaking, agree with the factors shared by the people, right? But depends on what axis of risks that we are talking about, right? In general, I
Right.
feel, and I spent like a number of years outside the country before kind of coming here and again starting to work here. So I'll share certain perspectives from that perspective, right? So what I feel in India is that we have many other risks that are higher, right? The obsolescence risk, the innovation risk, those are, I think, big higher risks, right? The costs and so on risks are I think in my mind Indian companies are very well prepared for, right? Then I think all the analysts at some level kind of alluded to this, right? Eventually, I think at an individual level, the CFOs that we have in our country or the finance sector in general is very strong, right? Compared to the size of the economy, size of the companies, right? I always feel like the CFO is like 3 grades higher than the company size itself, right? And therefore, what happens is the CFO is very well aware, right? And they're also aware of what has to be done in the companies to be able to avoid that risk. But rest
Right.
of the org, right? Do they invest in systems? Do they invest in processes? Or do they use CFO as largely a cost control tool or a cost control focal point? I think that's the key difference, right? When you go outside the country, actually you see CFOs taking much more active role into some of these decisions than in general what happens in India. So I feel like we definitely could be better prepared for a lot more I would say risks than we are at this point of time.
Okay. Okay. Noted your points, gentlemen. And let me begin some specific questions with you. Let me also, focus more on digital. And, Mr. Roy, I will come to you. So digital has become a trend. And, I carried this one nice line from a CISO of a bank who said that, earlier it would have been really difficult for us or even thought that VPN access would be given to the employee. But it's only because of pandemic we give all the access, whatever the necessary access to the pandemic. So every whole world, whole company, CFOs and everybody is talking far more aggressively with digital adoption, right? So, Mr. Roy, you tell me, how do you try to encourage your team in terms of digitizing the compliance? Okay, what kind of discussions you make? How do you get the support from your management and your whole team? How do you ensure that the digital compliance, can be I mean, the compliance can be done digitally so that maybe things will go seamless or something like that.
Yeah, I think, Amol, the way I see it is it's part of a larger ecosystem. So it starts with your finance blueprint. So if I may start, so the starting point is the finance blueprint. And I think most of us, we have been forced to revisit the blueprint thanks to this pandemic. And and probably if you see across sectors when I speak to CFOs, probably this pandemic has accelerated our digitization journey by at least a decade, if not more. So some companies like us who are MNCs who are already doing something probably better than most of the Indian companies, but definitely it has got accelerated. So, so to your specific question, how do we handle? I think there are three or four axes. One axis is the people axis, where with the team we have a very clear digitization roadmap linked to the finance blueprint. and programs are identified, transformation initiatives are identified by respective sub processes, and compliance becomes an integral part of that. Because thanks to, I mean, probably the biggest ERP which happens anywhere else in the world, which is the GST system which we have. I think this kind of ERP has happened nowhere in the world, where a supplier and customer is linked at an invoice level. And if you see that, that itself accelerated digitization by many fold. Today, probably, and I think it's part of the learning curve, uh, the government can do much more by use one source of data for multiple compliances. Today, that's not the case because essentially the departments, they are not talking to each other that much. I think as industry, our expectation would be that start talking to each other, use a common database, use some kind of a big data compliance, say data analytics, so that we don't have to kind of upload things in 5 different places. So that will really make life a little easier for us. I'm putting it very simplistically, but I mean that's the sense of it. To top up to that, I think the regulation is ever changing. I kind of touched upon a few things in my opening comments, but if you see the new TDS rules which has happened, where now even for your customers you have to do TDS compliances, there is a lot more option to accelerate the digitization. The same database can be used in multiple ways. So it entirely boils down to how you are structuring your data, what kind of analytics you are doing, and there is a lot of opportunity to use AI here. Companies like ours, we were thankfully in that journey for some time. So as we
Right.
speak, I'll probably give 1 or 2 specific examples. For example, we use bots to a large extent. So one of the bots, for example, which I use, a very simple bot, is an input reconciliation of against the IGST. So we have linked the bank statements with the GSTN portal, and we do an IGST reconciliation with input credits through bot. So those are the kind of very simple solutions. It's not very fancy. Bot sounds very fancy, but very simple solutions you can do where you can improve productivity, save on this. But the important part is, to summarize, I think it's the design thinking has to be there. It has to be part of a larger ecosystem. The team has to be aware. You need the proper skill set of people. So if you look at today, the finance organization composition, in my team, I have data scientists, I have engineers. 5 years down the back, I wouldn't have imagined having those kind of people as part of the team. So the ecosystem is changing, very fast changing. And the faster you adopt to the ecosystem, faster you will go in this journey.
Hmm. Okay, okay. Very valid point, Mr. Roy. So Mr. Kumar, I will shift the same question to you, but let me tweak it a bit. So, is it easy for you to convince your team to go for digital compliance because you come from absolutely a tech company? That is part number one. And second is, how tough it is, to look at the list of the compliance, tick all the boxes which the regulator has asked you to do, going ahead and comply with digitally all those things.
My view, Amol, on IT security, everybody recognizes that it's a A-list item. Everybody recognizes that. But if you ask me the extent of action on ground, I think it is still very nascent. Many people I've come across look at security as a cost, and they don't see it as an investment to carry on the business. Unless people shift their thinking that IT security is part and parcel of your overall cost of carrying on the business, there is a risk that security will be seen as a checkbox item. And such an approach, my own personal view, having been in the industry, it can be fatal. I always keep making this observation. When it comes to items like compliance or IT security, they are always costly, but not having them can be fatal. So they're costly, but not having them can be fatal. They can threaten the existence of the organization. As we go forward, I see a situation where there needs to be significant focus on privacy laws, ransomware attacks, and board level scrutiny, which will drive the priorities of security and risk leaders. My own view, if you I think Arnab was talking about the revised schedule 3 and we have a CARO and all. If you can recall those paragraphs, one of those CARO comments requires a comment on IT security systems, ERP security and things like that. So my view, security and risk management will soon become a board level issue for organizations, and the number and sophistication of security breaches which are increasing now will put security at the forefront of the business decisions. We have sufficient data points which all point towards the fact that organizations need to take IT security more seriously than what it is now. The good thing is people acknowledge it, but still, my experience, they still see it as a checkbox item. As long as they see it as checkbox item, you are still exposing the organization to the risk. My recommendation and from my experience is, while we have a CIO organization in most of the companies, it is important that there should be a board level focus as well. While it is not mandatory now, I would encourage boards to have a separate IT subcommittee who can oversee the functioning or give the empowerment to the CIO organization. CIO organization should not be just about process improvements, IT cost reduction. It should not be about that. It should be more about building a robust organization, which will be a sustainable organization. I would see that would be a right step in this regard.
Meaningful thoughts, Mr. Kumar, and thank you for adding the security perspective as well, along with the compliance part, which I wanted to learn from you. Mr. Sastry, I will come to you, and security is one aspect, but when you are going for digital and you are discussing risk in detail, what are the major risks that you as a CFO see? And also, if you could give us solutions or options, how do you actually try to mitigate those risks?
Let me put it this way. I can't agree more with Mr. Kumar and Mr. Roy. I'll tell you something. The digital today for us is something like when we started off learning arithmetic as children, and when they first said, if you have to count 10 plus 2, think 10 in the mind, 2 in the hand, and then 11 and 12. And it was very baffling then. And today we are also in such a situation. We really do not know what happens inside the digital. We are end users. And these are technologies developed and still evolving largely outside the country. And when we are in that kind of a situation, this clearly presents a phenomenal amount of risk. Now, what do we use digital for? Are you using digital as a tool to recommend action based on the trends? The risk is less. Are you using it as a business operating system, like Mr. Roy spoke about, where a bot is carrying out reconciliations and it is making entries in your financial systems? I say the risk is going to be much larger if you make a wrong entry. So the risks are far more because we are also having people functionally very strong. We have a group of people who are technologically very strong, but we do not have people in between for translating the functional expertise into the technical solution. So that we need to have people in between. And when Mr. Roy says that he has got an engineer in his team, I think that's the way to go. It's not a purely finance organization. And when I say when I work with my team, I say man should do once and the machines should repeat. So you need to embrace digital. Otherwise, the risk of not having digital is fatal. The risk of having digital implemented shoddily is fatal. The risk of saying that, no, this is too risky, I will go completely manual, you're going to be left so far behind that you're going to affect your business continuity itself. So if this is the risk, the way I think we should do it is the diligence with which we are implementing digital solutions should become threefold and fourfold than what we do today. If we are putting in place a robotic process automation, if you're going to use a digital twin, or you're going to use neural networks or any other kind of artificial intelligence tools, we have to religiously look at the output and manually verify it till the time we are satisfied that it is producing the right results. And then we should look at simple things like access controls, the design elements which go into it. And we should vet those people who are doing it. Do they have the right kind of knowledge? And we have to repeat it again and again and do the enhancements. So The diligence of using digital tool, while it will improve productivity, the ability to run the business better, our responsibility becomes that much more onerous to see to that they are performing to the design intent and they're also creating a risk-free environment. So what we do is we spend a lot of time improving the solution provided to us, and we do not accept a solution which our ERP cannot provide.
Noted your thoughts, Mr. Sastry, and I think good going. I think trying to learn a lot from you, and I think I'm sure the attendees are also enjoying it. My request to participants and delegates here is you can also shoot your questions. If you have any questions, you can shoot to anybody your questions, Mr. Kumar, Mr. Roy, Mr. Sastry, or Mr. Razdan. You can either specify the name of the speaker, or you can just shoot your question. I will take it to right person, right speaker here. So, Mr. Razdan, I have a very important question to you now. Whenever I look at the risk reports released by all these consultancy firms, whether KPMG or Deloitte, every year they give interesting data. They say that the risk starts with your company itself. The biggest, and your employee is the most vulnerable factor in the company. Right? Now, CFO deal with so many internal and external resources. Now let's keep the internal aside, but when you look at the external resources, which are like suppliers, right? Then vendors, then different customers. One, how to save, the company, or how to prevent risk from all this. So if you could tell us, how should CFOs make the most of digital to engage with the business ecosystem, including suppliers, vendors, customers, and employees also to improve the profitability, activeness, and reduce all the risk? I know it's a too long question, but
Yeah, let me take a shot at those very important questions. And see, I think Arnab said this a few minutes back, right? Like within the country, we have now implemented an ERP, right? And all within like call it broadly speaking, 2.5 years, we went from completely paper-based compliance that was highly, I would say, non-mandatory in nature almost, right? And now fully digital real-time compliance, right? Now that has made and see, fundamentally, if you look at how GST and government and NIC all put together, they are doing, right? They have created a fully digital compliance system, right? And B, there's a network design, right? Like, so if you don't do your job well, somebody else in the ecosystem suffers, right? I mean, your company also probably suffers, but somebody else also suffers. So what is happening as a result of this is, I think it will force the overall ecosystem to become high quality and low quality, right? Broadly. So to your point about the how does the supply chain become more relevant, or how do you deal with your vendors and so on? And we see from our vantage point, for those of you who are not aware, we make actually fundamentally tools for this transition, right? So we help connect. We are a very simple way of saying it. We are a middleware between companies' ERP systems and accounting systems and the national ERP system, right? And we do a lot of transportation, checking, reconciliation, validations, all of these things. So we have a relatively unique vantage point here. And what we are seeing is there are certain set of companies, right, that have realized that their digitalization is a given, right? And many of them have taken those appropriate steps, whether with provider A, B, C, themselves, whatever. The cutting edge companies have realized their ecosystems need to digitize now. If their ecosystems also digitize, their life becomes a lot simpler, right? So now what we see emerging, and we are working upon solutions over there, is fundamentally if I can call it like a horizontal layer, a horizontal system. See, ERPs are vertical systems. By and large, ERPs are vertical systems connecting a stack of a company, right? Whether it is manufacturing, sales, marketing, finance, and so on. We see emergence of horizontal systems now, where multiple vertical systems can connect and talk to each other, right? So the equivalent, if I can draw out, would be, back in the day you had a phone, right, which had its own operating system, and you could operate a certain way. And then there were these cross-platform things that emerged, which are like WhatsApps and whatnot of the world. I think some of these, and actually, if you see globally, right, there are such horizontal platforms available, right? Some of these. For India, these will emerge now, right? And in my opinion, what that does is it reduces risk by increasing transparency and cutting down time, right? Of communication, of reconciliations, of payments, of anything along those lines, right? If See, the fundamental thing about risk is that it's inversely proportional to time. Very simply, right? So if you cut down time, your risk also, sorry, if you give yourself more time, then your risk comes down on whatever you take, right? This increases time, in our opinion, right? In that a company has, and so structurally it brings it down. Now, I think up to us as as an ecosystem to see how and when and how effectively we adopt some of these tools. But when you look at it, things 10 years down the line from here, right? 100% I'm like, and again, right, we keep talking to the regulators, we know where their brain is at, going towards basically nationalized EDI kind of formats, right? This is what we have now. So therefore, once electronic exchange has been made, right, everything will move there. So paper purchase orders, paper this, paper that will all go away, right? And in this, the thing that now I think a lot of my panelists have mentioned this, so I'll just repeat it, not too much, but as this digitization happens in your companies and companies around you, then the question comes, what is the quality of digitization? What is the quality of risk? Because right now people are not even understanding the trade-off. They don't even understand. We have had customers who tell us, okay, we will take your cloud-based system. When are you coming and installing us? We want an installation for, so market is very raw, and that will need to evolve.
Mhm. Yeah, very valid point. So Mr. Roy, I will quickly, take the question, the conversation forward from where Mr. Razdan ended. He says that it has to evolve. Now, everybody in the CFO world also talking far more aggressively about using data far more aggressively, right? But the data is everywhere for every company, right? But I'm sure your company also data. So one is you have to utilize your data by artificial intelligence, everything, so that you can make better decisions. But at the same time, when your data is going everywhere, it's also creating a lot of risk for you. So one, at your company level, how are you managing your data far more aggressively so that no risk will come out of it? And second, are there any examples where when people can actually protect their data, not only in simply encrypted format, but in a far more meaningful manner, where data will be only used for your purpose with only your consent?
I think some of the panelists already touched upon it. I think Mr. Kumar touched upon the whole data security and other aspect. And I totally agree with him. It has to be a board level conversation. And at our organization, we exactly start there. I think this is the one item with almost every quarterly audit committee we discuss. And there is we take one aspect of it and discuss it in the audit committee every quarter. I think the data security is fundamental. I think it's not an easy journey, especially when your data is getting used everywhere. It's a complicated journey. And I think I also agree with the comment which Mr. Shastri made. I think, see, the basic system of record has to be the ERP. But the only trade-off is, you can customize the ERP to a certain extent, and it comes with a cost. And in a digital world, you can go up to a certain level. Then, as Mr. Radhan was saying, the horizontal ecosystem gets built in. You call it a middleware, you call it a system of allied applications, whatever you want to call it, but it's an ecosystem. The core remains the ERP, the ecosystem gets developed. And then the ecosystem interfaces with now the government compliance system, which is the largest ERP which we are talking about, and it will comply more and more. Also, what is happening is you have to also interface with your suppliers and customers now. Now, gone are the days when you used to do a physical reconciliation with people, because GST is forcing you to do a virtual reconciliation. So most of the ERPs, depending on whether you are using a federated ERP or all, they have those supplier iSupplier portal, iCustomer portal. Most of us use that. So half of it is taken care within the ERP. Some part you have to do outside. But when you are in a system like this, I think the architecture becomes really important. The data security is fundamental, as Mr. Kumar touched upon it. And then the awareness and education of the team. Ultimately, the compliance boils down to people. So if you have a robust team, your monthly closing checklist is very strong. You can do those checks as part of your closing. I think traditionally, when all of us, as CAs, we started our job, we were told about a monthly closing process and a checklist. Now that checklist needs to evolve, and it has evolved for the organizations which are compliance conscious, and it is evolving. And I think if you look at it from a perspective, so I'll oversimplify it. You have a books of account, you have a tax balance sheet. I'm using the word tax balance sheet loosely, which is both your direct tax and indirect tax balance sheet, the way the department sees it. And that whole reconciliation and the controls, which Mr. Shastri was trying to say, how do I ensure that the bots will ensure the right controls? Ultimately, it will reflect in a balance sheet. Your tax balance sheet has to reflect that. So your balances as per the GST portal and balances as per your books of accounts, you need to have a clear reconciliation. So though that's how you develop the mitigating controls, and your audit program is also very important. When you have an internal audit program or your external audit program, that has to dovetail to this, and you need to have it. So as you can see, there are fairly few moving pieces, and the ecosystem has to be integrated in a proper way for you to be comfortable as CFO eventually.
I'm receiving some questions from attendees as well, but I will ask attendees or participants to, stick to the today's topic, which is, our CFO risk ready. Please shoot your questions related to risk factor only. The questions that I have received are also some different questions about IFRS and all, everything, India and all. I think let's stick to only questions related to risk ready. Uh, Mr. Kumar, I have a very important question for you. It's more on a hypothetical side, but the question is, to mitigate the risk, when all the CFOs are far more aggressively using digitalization, what do you think? What are the areas that CFOs generally miss while adopting digital and taking a risk? What are those risk areas which CFOs may miss, or there are high chances that they will miss while going for digital adoption?
Amol, one common experience I've come across many cases is these projects of digitalization, IT security, etc. They always start with a very high level of executive sponsorship. They start with that. But as time goes by, as the project deployment time goes by, my experience, because we are a vendor to various large and mid organizations, I'm speaking from that experience. The executive sponsorship, the time which is given, or the enthusiasm, passion, it tends to diminish over a period of time, particularly projects which are 3 months, 6 months, and all. I see that as a huge risk. That as a huge risk. Organizations where they have been able to ensure executive sponsorship is consistent right through, the IT projects are invariably a success. Otherwise, I find it that the results are suboptimal, and people keep sharing complaints about each other, the vendor organization and the user organization. That's one experience I have. So I would strongly encourage every organization. It's very important that if the objectives of any IT project have to be met, the executive sponsorship commitment has to be exactly the same as it was on day one till the day it actually goes live. That's one point. The second observation I have, Amol, is most cases again, there's a tendency to do a reasonably high level of organization level customization. Even in the case of cloud applications, people try to have their own tools built for organization level customization. I would strongly discourage that practice. What happens is, when the moment you do customization or build bolt-on applications, the vulnerability of that application becomes high. What happens is we don't invest in what we call as VAPT, vulnerability assessment and penetration testing. That testing, third-party testing, we don't invest the right kind of testing for those built-on applications, homegrown applications, and things like that. As a result, again, either the principal application output is reduced efficacy, or the risk, the security risk of these other applications getting penetrated is pretty high. That's the second one I would say. The third one I would see as a phenomenon largely in medium-sized organizations is the discipline around segregation of duties and the IT password control, segregation of duties in IT password control. I've come across many organizations where we have what we call as a single sign-on password. The same password for your mail, for your performance management, travel management, ERP, etc., etc. And there are a reasonably good number of senior leadership who have a tendency of compromising that user credentials to their next in command. Next in command, each one believes you start trusting it. I've seen it. People hesitate probably to acknowledge it, but I've seen it quite rampant. Say quite rampant, including digital signatures, whatever. I think it's important that organizations are conscious of those. Maybe all the 3 points I've said are very fundamental, but I'm sharing this out of my experience of having seen the end customer organizations, different size of organizations.
I think, Mr. Kumar, those are not just fundamental points, but are very, very relevant points. And thank you so much for sharing, because sometimes when you share your experience and your own case studies, I think that's how people connect with far more in a far more meaningful manner. So Mr. Sastry, I will maybe take ahead what Mr. Kumar said. Uh, Risk is an integral factor. CFOs are obviously looking at it far more aggressively. So, Mr. Sastry, my question to you is, how tough it is for a CFO to convince the management to invest heavily in preventing risk, to invest, in all the risk factors far more aggressively. We partially discussed this, but the whole focus of the board, the management is also, the shareholder profit, the company profit, and everything. So, how CFOs actually convince management, no, let's take risk as a first factor?
I'll just answer you this way. The role of a CFO in a company is not easy. So he is with a CEO of the company who's supposed to be a risk taker, and he is an eternal optimist. And we have the CFO who's a realist, who's always telling, let us take this path. This path seems to be having those crossroads where we do not know how it will lead to. And so is the other functional people who really do not have the view of how the actions have an impact on the final results of the company. End of the day, the language with which we communicate to the external world and how we represent ourselves is the financial statements. And how they look on the financial statements is not something which it's said that, okay, it is for those people sitting in the finance function, let them take care of that. Now, in this case, the way I see it, that CFO should insist upon this, there is something which is a playground. The entire organization can go ahead and invest and time and anything on something, you can call it as a playground, where you can try out new technologies, try out new solutions, look at how the insights are coming from something which is new, something a new startup company is bringing out as a solution. Go ahead and do that, not a problem. When it comes to core business processes, the CFO should insist that we should go only with standard tools, which are tried and tested, which have credentials, which have passed all the criterion pertaining to the user acceptance testing and any kind of validation. And it will cost money. The CFO, in spite of having the responsibility of ensuring the financial success of the company, keeping in view the continuity of the business and not facing the risk of the entire business coming to a standstill because of a badly used IT solution or a digital solution, should insist on spending more money on going only for those solutions which are standard in nature. The second thing which we should do is, like, we as an automotive company, and we have a large supplier base. And when this is something which Mr. Roy spoke about also, that if we want to mitigate the risk of the counterparty or the third parties or the other parties whom we deal with, it is better that if we are planning on some digital initiatives, that we should develop it and allow it to be deployed across the entire supply chain. And go ahead, and even it's okay to even give it to them at a low cost, at a subsidized price, or even at a free cost. That if these solutions can be deployed across, we are going to benefit immensely because of this standardization across the entire supply chain. And we know that whatever comes out has got all the checks and balances, all the segregation of duties, and all those things which can make it immutable and also very strong in terms of the quality of output. So I think standardization is something which is important, involving more people than your own company. There's no point in you being a pocket of excellence when all around you is chaos. You have to spread it across the entire value chain and supply chain. And most important is do not go cheap when it has got a business impact. Always, of course, provide for a playground where people can play around with these things, but that is just a playground. Look at what comes out of it. Enjoy the digital, what do you say, the euphoria of finding something which is digital. But unless it is tried, tested multiple times, do not allow it to govern your business. So this, I think, is something we should think of when you go for digital and risk mitigation.
Thank you, Mr. Sastry, for that. And let me move my focus to now, Mr. Razdan. Mr. Razdan, now my question to you is, since you are considering and risk as one of the integral factors, and we're talking more about how CFOs are risk ready and trying to resolve this and creating solution around it. What are the tools that CFOs need to gear up for the digital risk landscape, according to you, Mr. Razdan?
Thank you, Amol, for that question. So let me maybe start with a little bit of context for the tools that you're asking about, right? So, and let me also, I think a couple of our panelists mentioned this is not easy, right? So let me start there, right? This is actually very tough. Let me give context of why this is very tough. Right? See, the context of the change, right? What when you zoom across the economy at almost any sector of the economy, barring the few which are born on digital kind of era, right? They see things becoming like changes happening on a week-to-week, month-to-month basis, right? Like these days, I remember there was one notification from GSTN or something that came at 11:50 p.m. when invoicing was going live, right? And we had to take our systems live. So literally, we were refreshing because we knew it would come. So the government has become a startup, right? Because the government has become a startup. That means they are very, very accepting now of change. Okay, if they are changing, then you have no choice, right? Firstly, right? So first says that. Second is things are becoming real time. Okay, whether we like it or not, things are becoming real time. Okay, and third is that at some level there is now almost an aversion to paper that has been decided everywhere in the economy. Everybody hates paper now, but they have different levels of hatred, so they will probably get to that a little bit, right? So in the light of these three things, right, what is given is when the companies that were forward looking, let's say 15 years back, right, they implemented homegrown domestic systems, let's say, right? Some homegrown system they built out, some programmers they got, and they looked very good for 10 years, right? Got very married over there, right? Now all those systems look very brittle, right? They look outdated because they can't change as fast, right? Second is cloud is coming, right? So the transition from, and again, right, I mean, I am a little biased because we run a cloud company, but we have the largest on-prem company, SAP, which has said that, right? Like Microsoft changed, right? So when Microsoft and SAP have changed, that means cloud is there globally, right? Right. And third is that it's not just your problem, it's also your ecosystem that is changing. With this context, right? What when you see now, what do the companies need, right? What are they asking for? They are asking for almost impossibility, okay, which is give me real-time, highly nimble, very fast systems. Okay, that should operate like an on-premise system, right? So it should operate on this 3 nines, 4 nines, 5 nines kind of basis, right? And there should be 100% secure, right? Which means give me full support service and so on, but nobody can see this data, all the penetration testing, all of this done, right? Which is all fine, right? Then they say many times that, well, you know what, the guy who has to help you implement these systems is also doing audits for some asset. Okay, he's counting laptops, so he cannot provide you access to the systems. There's no cooperation sometimes from the companies themselves. They think magically it will happen, right? And lastly, they'll say all of this, right, give it to me for nothing. That is how India is today, right? So what I see happening, there are now cutting edge tools available in India, right? There are also roadside tools available in India, right? And now it comes down to, as Mr. Kumar rightly said, it's a board matter, CEO matter. What do you want to do with the business? What do you want to opt for? Because everything is available. Okay, and I will go back to the question of what is the broadest risk that I see for the large companies, right? The broadest risk is actually not like digital data leak ho gaya and all of these things, right? I think that's embarrassment more than risk. Okay, risk is that your business will get disrupted while you are looking and trying to become compliant with XYZ things. You are not able to move as fast as the market is moving, as other people are moving, right? And it has happened in large banks. They are getting disrupted. It's happening with auto industry right now at certain level. It will happen in every single industry. So the need to embrace technology is so high, because if you are confident of your backend and you don't have to keep looking behind your shoulder, you can actually look forward, look for tomorrow, day after tomorrow, next week, and so on. Otherwise, you are always just worried that I'm not compliant. I'm just exposed to risk. So my simple 2 or 3 things will be, and again, right, like at some level, I'm conscious it sounds self-serving or whatever. Opt for the best quality tools available in the market, right? Do not, like, if you throw peanuts, you will get monkey, right? Just understand that's the reality of life, right? And the third thing will be, don't think about digitization for today. Think about digitization for day after tomorrow, because change management is the hardest thing. It's not 5 lakhs, 10 lakhs, 50 lakhs. That is not the tough part, right? That everybody can afford these days. The problem is getting 1,000 people used to something, right? So the more you overload the change management thing with multiple changes in one go, somehow it starts, somehow it ends, right? And then you can relax easy. What I see companies struggle with is, and we see this all the time, do only this much today, baki ka baad mein dekhenge, right? Then that's okay, right? Then 6 months later, then it's again something, right? So I see that, I would say, like, honestly, organizational laziness, which kind of stops the intellectual clarity that people already have.
Okay. I think Mr. Raghavan has clearly, laid out all practical examples and the conversation he actually has with his clients on a maybe daily basis. I think we are running short of time now, but I think I will still have 4 5 minutes. The watch has already started taking, and I have also started receiving questions. So this question is specifically for Arnav, and Arnav, I wanted to take this question. Then the question is, how do you balance growth and risk, both being competing yet compelling priority?
I think that's a trade-off which I think every business leader has to face on a day-to-day life, not just CFOs. And as CFO, since you are the custodian of the assets of the organization, the onus is more on you.
Right.
So I think the biggest thing is be aware of your decisions, what you are doing. Don't try to get everything right. That's never possible. As long as you are reasonably sure that things are okay, go with your decision. Otherwise, you are going to hinder growth. So there is nothing like 100% average security. That's never going to happen. So I think it's a balance. I mean, it will come with, there is no right or wrong answer here. It comes with application. Again, I repeat what I have said few times. I think the structure part becomes very important in a digitized environment. Your blueprint, your organizational blueprint, your 5 years plan, your finance blueprint. I think that, and you need to keep revisiting it to see whether you need a course correction or whether you are going in the right. I think this is a continuous exercise which you have to do now with the fast changing world. You cannot expect that, okay, I will stand in a certain place. This is my federated ERP. I live with it. Not going to happen in today's world.
Okay, Arnav. So I think the participant has not, what you can say, mentioned the name of the speaker here, but I will read the question, and anybody, Mr. Kumar or Mr. Azam, if you want to take this, let me know. The question is, how can one mitigate the risk of holding blind trust on secondary charge for signatures, etc.? It is possible that inadvertently SIC commits a mistake which can cost the organization clearly. I feel CFOs are not risk ready here. Is there a way to mitigate this? Anybody would like to take this? Mr. Kumar, Mr. Sastry? Mr. Kumar, do you want to take
I
this?
couldn't actually hear fully, but is it relating to security around signatures and all, digital signatures?
Yes.
Actually, that's upon in previous response which I was giving to you. As far as digital signatures are concerned, it's important that you are giving it to the right people who have the experience and maturity of applying it, and also have a process of monitoring the signatures which have happened. Like, for example, what happens is my legal team, for example, the contracts which come, they actually do a digital signature of the contracts which we sign. Some could be customer contracts, vendor contracts, so many of them. So what we do is we also have a control process just to see whether those signatures have been affixed by the person who is being duly authorized. So we have that. That's an extra layer of investment which is there. So sometimes it is done on a sample basis. When it comes to high value contracts, then 100% review is done. But it's a risk which we carry. It's a risk which we carry because no matter how much ever you do, if a password compromise happens, you're done. The organization is exposed to that risk. And it is happening all the time. People don't acknowledge it, but it's happening all the time. And I can also share with you, Amol, that many organizations do suffer some amount of data breach and risk losses, but they are shy to tell outside, So it all life moves on, it moves on. But I think we need to break out of that culture, and feel free to say that, look, I have been exposed, so let me do it next. But it's easily said than done. I think it will take time for the culture to evolve in India, because sometimes what happens is uh, something which is very regular. Also, the outside stakeholders might blow it out of proportion. Like, for example, there can be a theft in a factory godown. You don't put it in the media, you don't put it in the media and blow it up and all. Here, if it gets put in the media that there's a data security breach, the impact could be small. It does get blown out of proportion and becomes a huge example. So that fear is there in most organizations. I think that maturity has to evolve.
Right. And I think we discussed a lot of aspects about data security and major risks also. But let me take last one question with all of you, only one question. And gentlemen, please treat this as a rapid fire. We are running out of time. So very quick question, and I will start with you, Mr. Sastry. So we discussed the digital revolution, the digital solution to mitigate the risks. But what are the digital risks that you think will emerge in next 3 to 5 years for which CFO should be prepared, according to you, Mr. Sastry?
We are going to have a serious shortage of quality people who will give us solutions. And even the people whom we get, if they make half-baked solutions which are not complete, that's the big risk.
Okay, very well said. Mr. Razdan?
I mean, I was about to say that the biggest risk in digital thing is going to be people. So I would say, like, I think Mr. Sastry mentioned it from a standpoint of people who understand it. I also feel that it will at some level people being able to, even in the management teams or kind of in senior levels, people being able to give this thing more than 5 minutes, right? This becomes, like, I've generally seen, like, and I've seen it even in our, right, like, in the 45th slide will be, okay, security investments or whatever, right? Which is fine. But, for our company side, because everybody is like thinking digital security every day, right? But if this happens time and again, if management teams are not fully, I would say, invested behind why this is important, at least more important than the bottom 10% of customers, or, they have to have some mindset. If otherwise, it will never happen. It will never get attention.
Arnab, Mr. Roy.
In my view, I think the biggest risk is for any management is how to keep it simple, because with this kind of a thing, every day, I mean, trust me, I have 15 vendors coming at me and pitching a solution. So how not to get carried away by that? Keep the structure aligned, keep the data architecture aligned, and not get kind of overwrought by every solution which comes your way, and move to a plan. I think that's the biggest risk I see beyond the people. The people, I fully agree with Mr. Sastry.
Right. I think that's a very, very valid point. And that is with us as well. The whole thing that we do every day is simplifying the stories, decoding what CFO says, what CEO says in the business terms. Very well said, Mr. Roy. Mr. Kumar, your perspective.
Two things, Amal. One is you actually get into a zone to believe that anything which is digital is correct. I think that's correct or safe. I think that's one danger zone. The second is the organizations need to be prepared that This is not a one-time investment, and it has to be, there is to be reinvestment regularly, because the rate at which they'll become obsolete is very high. So you should have the ability to keep reinvesting in it. Otherwise, you are exposing yourself to much bigger. These are my two cents.
Okay. Okay. Noted your points, gentlemen. Thank you so much, Mr. Kumar, Mr. Roy, Mr. Sastry, and Mr. Razdan, sharing your perspective here and taking out time to join the ETCFO, webinar and sharing your meaningful perspective here. Thank you so much. We're supposed to have, other speaker, Mr. Raju Gupta as well, but he could not join because of the medical emergencies. But thank you so much, taking out time and sharing your valuable insights. I'm so sure the participants must have enjoyed your views. And thank you so much once again.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks a lot.
Ladies and gentlemen, please stay connected to etcfo.com. We do cover the CFO community far more aggressively, and please, look at our India in coverage as well. So thank you so much, ladies and gentlemen, and dear participants. Thank you so much.